So yes, I can see people have already started joining in. So maybe without dealing it further, let me start with a quick introduction to the panel. Good noon, everyone. On behalf of Messi Frankfurt, I, Payal Gulati, warmly welcome you all to this webinar. And I would like to thank all the panelists and audience for taking out time to join us here. So the topic that we have today is Fueling the Future, Alternative Fuel Solutions for the Indian Transportation Sector. And we have a great set of panel out here. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Suresh Manglani, who is the CEO Adani Gas Limited. A very warm welcome, sir. I think their video is off right now. Hi, sir. Very warm welcome.
Thank you, Payal. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Thanks, sir. Then it's Dr. S.S. Tipsy, who is the Senior Deputy Director, ARAI. Thanks a lot, sir, for joining in.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to next, we have Mr. Eric Bipuz, who's the Senior Vice President, Agility Fuel Solution, USA. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you very much. Greetings from America.
Same here. And then we have Mr. Pavneet Singh Batra, who's the Chief General Manager, IGL. Happy to have you on board, Pavneet.
Yeah, hello everyone.
Now our session moderator, Mr. Sanjay Grover, who is the leader of oil and gas tax practice at Ernst & Young India. A very warm welcome, Sanjay.
Pleasure to be here.
So before we start, I will request the audience to keep sharing their questions in the Q&A box here, and we will address this at the end of the session. Now I will request Sanjay to take it up from here. Over to you, Sanjay.
Thank you very much, Payal, and thank you to Frank Messi, from Messi Frankfurt for inviting me to moderate this this session. What I'm going to do is, rather than introducing everybody a little more in detail, I'm going to request everybody to introduce themselves. I will pitch in my introduction a little bit now. I lead the oil and gas tax practice for Ernst & Young in India. I've been fortunate enough to be associated with the oil and gas industry for the past 32 years, and I look forward for this panel discussion in the next hour or so. Mr. Tipsy, if you could introduce yourself and pass it on to Mr. Manglani for a brief introduction by him.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Tipsy. I'm working in Automotive Research Association of India, ARAI, as a Senior Deputy Director. Currently, I'm in charge of the Environment Research Lab and the Powertrain Engineering Department. My basic work is all related to alternate fuels. So I am associated with the certification and development of alternate fuel vehicles in ARAI.
Hi, good afternoon. I am Suresh Manglani. I think there is some echo. Hello, hi, good afternoon. I am Suresh Manglani. As introduced by Payal, I am Chief Executive Officer of Adani Gas Limited. For last 30 years, I've been only doing city gas distribution on oil and gas, either it is LNG or fuel retailing in Reliance. So it's been a very exciting time for last 30 years, being in oil and gas. Adani Gas, I've been part of last 2 years, and I will be giving you a little more introduction about Adani Gas during the, during the session. So over to Pavneet or Eric, to you.
Yeah, I think we can take it forward, and we will go to the US in the end because it's early in the morning there.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm audible.
Yes. Yes.
Hello, I'm Pavneet Batra, working in Indraprastha Gas Limited, working in projects department. I have an exposure of city gas distribution of approximately 18 years. I started my career with IGL, worked in O&M and different departments. Then I went to MGL, and now again back to the pavilion to IGL, working in projects. So I have seen rather CGD growing right from the, I should say, very nascent stage, and I'm very happy the way CGD is going these days. Thank you.
Over to you, Eric.
Okay. Well, good morning and good evening from America. I'm coming to you from Indiana. My name is Eric Bippus. I'm the Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Agility Fuel Solutions. Been coming to India for over 20 years, mostly around the heavy duty space, commercial vehicles, bus transportation systems, and from a heavy duty supplier standpoint, Very excited to be a part of this panel. We're very excited about the activity in India and the natural gas development that's taking place there, and I look forward to sharing a lot of that with you today.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you everybody for the introduction. Let me dive into the topics now. Obviously, the objective of the discussion is that what are the different fuel technology solutions that are available and what is their compatibility with different types of applications. So we're going to have a discussion around that. Since Eric is in the US, let me go to the distant future, so as to say, or ask Eric to go tell us what is happening around the world, and then we will go into the future. So Eric, I wanted to find out what are the different fuel technology solutions available worldwide for different transport applications. Now, is there a complementarity between these solutions, or there is a conflict between these solutions which are being developed on a worldwide basis? So just wanted your thoughts on that.
Sure, it's a very common question. We get it all the time. Just to tell you a little bit about Agility to set the backdrop of, what we do and how we have a perspective that is both global but also multi-fuel. Agility Fuel Solutions is part of a group called the Hexagon Group, and within that group of companies, we have Agility Fuel Solutions, and we focus on compressed natural gas solutions in Europe, in North America, in Asia, primarily focusing on India and South America. About a year ago, we spun off a company called Hexagon Purus, which is still in the family, and they're focusing on battery electric technology, on hydrogen technology, working with fuel cell partners around the world to employ that sort of technology, not just now, but also into the future. So our perspective that we take is very consultative in that we work with the fleets, we work with the OEMs, we work with the geographic areas to say, the way you set up that question was perfect, Sanjay, in the fact that there is no perfect one solution for a geographic area. There's multiple opportunities. But when it comes to, we'll walk around the world, starting with North America, I think every potential alt fuel is being employed. Some of it in very, very small quantities because it's still out there ways like hydrogen fuel cell activity. There's a lot of that going on. But the number of vehicles on the road today is still very small. And I'll come back to that. Battery electric vehicles has taken a lot of press. It's taken a lot of energy. There's certainly a future for that. And there's a lot of activity going on in the United States around that. But it's very specific to different usage patterns. Compressed natural gas, LNG, what we have now, what we call in the United States, RNG or biomethane and biogas is probably the most adopted fuel that is actually in use around the world, whether it be North America, whether we see in South America, in Europe, and then certainly in India, a lot of compressed natural gas. There's different limitations to the different fuels, but if I was to start with a particular fleet, a fleet may have several different usage patterns. It may have long haul requirements where it has to go 400, 500, 600 kilometers in a day. In the United States, it could be 1,000 kilometers or more in a single fill. So we need large systems. We need capacity to contain enough energy that vehicle can do its complete route. That same fleet may have a vehicle that is doing final mile delivery in the inner city, where that vehicle may not exceed 70 kilometers in a single day. And at the end of that day, that vehicle may come back, sit at a depot, and be filled up for the next day's fill. Perfect application for EV. Very good application. We're seeing that all around the world. So from a perspective of which fuel is the best or which fuel is readily adoptable, I heard a great quote a couple weeks ago from a senior leader in one of the major fleets in North America, and he said, "Our stance is this: we're not going to wait for perfect when good and great is readily available today. And today, the good and great that's readily available and easy to deploy in most markets is natural gas. There's infrastructure in place. There's technology in place. More importantly, there's vehicle applications that have been adopted by the OEMs. So a fleet that wants to deploy not just prototype activity, dozens of vehicles, but we're talking hundreds or even thousands of vehicles, has the ability in most markets to deploy a natural gas fleet and leverage the OEM's service network and leverage an infrastructure base that's in place in that local market that can support that fleet, whilst they test other technologies such as hydrogen, such as EV, such as hybrid activity that is also very attractive in many different applications. So, you know, the agility approach, or what we call the agility and hexagon way, is the fact that we have multiple solutions. We want to work with what is immediate and viable. And to wait 2 years, 5 years, 10 years for perfection to get here when good and great is already here is probably a mistake. In North America, the #1 adopted alternate fuel would be natural gas. In South America, we see a lot of natural gas. Certain markets are really going aggressive with natural gas. Europe, extreme growth in natural gas, especially in public transit. We're seeing a lot of transit buses going to natural gas. And the exciting thing about India is India has a long history and experience of using compressed natural gas. Some of the technology is a little bit older technology with range limitations and weight limitations, but some of the new technology that we're certainly bringing to market and others are bringing to market will allow those applications to double, in some cases triple their range using natural gas. And from a fleet perspective, to deploy natural gas, it's very similar to petrol and diesel in that it's not a radical new technology. Drivers know how to fill the vehicle. It's easy to fill. So there's a lot of muscle memory that we say from a driver standpoint and a technician standpoint to deploy a natural gas fleet from a diesel fleet or a petrol fleet.
Okay. So basically what you're saying is there is different scopes, as they say, for different folks. And from what I hear from you, sometimes the best is not the optimal, or the optimal is not the best. Sometimes you have to drive through with something which is reasonably suboptimal because that is the best at that point of time. So having got a worldwide perspective, Dr. Tipsey, would appreciate if you could share your view from an Indian perspective. What is happening? What are the different fuel technologies that are available in India and are being deployed, and what is suitable from an Indian perspective as compared to what is happening in the world? Do you see a similar trend from an Indian perspective in terms of what Eric has just stated?
Yeah. So basically in India, what has happened in terms of the alternative fuel scenario is we can say that we have development on two fronts within the alternative fuels. One is the natural gas technologies, which is clearly similar to what Eric told in the US. When I say natural gas technologies, I am talking three fuels actually: CNG, LNG, and bio-CNG. Now, as far as natural gas is concerned, CNG is the front runner because it has been extensively used for the last more than 20 years, and a very good infrastructure is in place. Successful programs are there, Delhi being the perfect example of a public transportation running on CNG. Many other cities have also done that, and wherever it is available, it is growing. So the fleet size is growing, the number of vehicle models being offered on CNG is growing, public acceptance is at an all-time high, and definitely it is one very good contender for the future. Along with that, the markets which are not served by CNG, especially the truck market or the long distance bus market, that is one very good option using LNG. So LNG is an excellent option for those markets which are not serviced by CNG. And LNG also footprint is expanding in India, and more options will be coming in. Already we have certified some LNG vehicles, and some of them have been already introduced in India, especially states like Kerala and other places. So LNG is for the highways, CNG for the metro cities, and the third fuel is the bio-CNG, as Eric mentioned, biomethane. So that is the ideal fuel for the rural area, where some kind of biomass is available which can be converted into bio-CNG and can be used for applications such as tractors, then generator sets, pump sets, and other such applications. So bio-CNG is an ideal fuel for the rural country. So this all three bunched together, we call it natural gas. And as far as CNG is concerned, there is a plan to set up 10,000 CNG stations, a very ambitious plan by the Ministry of Petroleum. And I'm happy that there is a lot of traction on that. As far as the other technologies are concerned, the biofuels. Now the biofuels are essentially the fuels coming from some biological source. So in that, the primary and the most front runner is ethanol. So ethanol as a fuel traditionally is being used to blend with gasoline. Earlier it was 5%, now it is 10%, and talks are around for 20%. So that is one of the byproduct of the sugar cane, and it is a versatile fuel, and it has been extensively used. And lot of efforts are there to even introduce dedicated ethanol vehicles, like the countries like Brazil and USA. They already have flex fuel vehicles. So as far as India is concerned, although they are not introduced here, there are rules and regulations where one can introduce these fuel technology in India. So right now, ethanol is being looked upon as a very important fuel. There are some other fuels in this category. One is methanol, which has recently been promoted by the Niti Aayog. That also is one more applicant, or one can say one more choice of technology. Biodiesel, unfortunately, did not catch up, but it was also introduced. And even in the Euro 6 regulations, BS6 regulations, if you see our BS6 regulations, the biodiesel is a component of diesel. So that is definitely there is some scope for biodiesel also, although it has not caught up for various reasons. So if I say alternate fuel technologies, I'll say mostly the gaseous fuel and biodiesel. And conflict, if you say, I don't see conflict between these two because the applications are totally different. And whereas there is a conflict between technologies like diesel, petrol, that is the fossil fuels, and the alternate fuels, because they are vying for different applications. And sector-wise, the fossil fuels are getting replaced by alternative fuels. I'll give examples such as aviation sector. People are talking about biofuel for flights. Marine sector, people are trying for change. Even in case of the off-highway construction equipment vehicles, there is change. Railways is trying to introduce clean fuel vehicles. So all these is definitely sector-wise, there is a replacement going on. And that is the most important takeaway for us, that there are many solution options. And as Eric said, there is no silver bullet. There is no one solution. There is a bunch of solutions are available in India, and this will continue to go forward. And the last, I'll just talk a little bit on hydrogen. That has now recently got a lot of attention. So maybe hydrogen fuel cell also as a future possibility. It might come into the country. Some pilot programs are already in progress. And that is one more area where India, a lot of work will be done in the future. But as of now, there is no such infrastructure-wise, only 2 or 3 outlets from IOC. But in the future, we see a lot of activity on hydrogen fuel cells.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tipsy. Before I go to Mr. Batra, I just had one more question, a very fundamental question. With the price of oil being so volatile, if the price goes so low, then does it make sense to get into alternative fuels because of the price arbitrage that is there today? Sometimes doesn't exist. So if you have petrol or crude coming down to whatever, 20, 30, 35 dollars per barrel, does it become cost competitive to go into alternative fuels, or is there a dissuasion in not getting into alternative fuels because of the low price of oil? So is there a conflict between the price of oil and the alternative fuels?
Am I expected to answer?
Yeah. So okay. I just thought I'd pose another question.
If we see that, definitely I agree with you that the interest in alternative fuels is peaked when the oil price rises, and there is some dip in that when there is a trough or a low side for the fossil fuels. So that phenomenon will be there. But the point is, what is happening in India is there is apart from the price, there is the availability issue. You see, as we are moving ahead in terms of regulations, the fuel quality requirements are becoming very stringent, especially for the petrol and diesel. You know that we were 500 ppm sulfur for diesel, we'll step down to almost 350, then 50, now we are at 10 ppm. And who knows in the future what will be the requirement. So the cost of refining, cost of producing that high quality fuel is a big drag, and the price of the fuel is going to increase day by day. Also, in terms of availability pan-India, there are going to be a lot of issues. Whereas right now, even though India has transitioned into BS6 and those things are there, but it is not going to be a phenomenon where the fuel price will remain low. Or in fact, there will be places where there is a recession and the price will remain stable. But then price rise will always be there. So that is one part. And second thing is the availability of alternate fuels earlier was less. But now all these alternatives are available. And I must say the consumers are also very much aware now that with these solutions, I am helping the environment. These solutions, alternative fuel solutions, are cleaning up the environment. They are not harming it. So they are also interested in owning clean fuel vehicles. And that trend and that awareness also will have its own impact on the OEMs. So you can see more and more OEMs are introducing alternate fuel vehicles, which is evident because earlier, retrofitment agencies were there who were delivering such services. Now even OEMs are giving 0 kilometer retrofitment. They are giving well-balanced, excellent service vehicles, which are very popular. And in fact, the feedback from the market is, there is a queue for CNG vehicles now. And lot of vehicles are getting sold, and the diesel and petrol vehicles are losing favor, especially diesel vehicles. In fact, I saw a report that the sale of diesel vehicles has dropped drastically as far as passenger car is concerned. And that is a big indication to me that in spite of price fluctuations, there is going to be a sustained market for gaseous fuels. Yes.
I think you kind of confirmed my thinking is that the low price of oil does not actually translate into the fuel that we want which has very low environmental damage. And therefore, you can't look at the price of oil only. You need to look at the price of fuel which is actually delivered, which may not be as cost competitive as one thinks. So coming to Mr. Batra, as far as CGD is concerned, one type of, or one of the subcomponents of the fuel solutions that is there, grown exponentially as far as India is concerned, and that's the area where concentration has been. Very deep penetration. In my view, just wanted your thoughts. It has laid down the infrastructure. The regulation has been helpful to a very large extent, and would want you to kind of throw some light on that in terms of where regulations can be ironed out. But basically what I wanted to ask you is, CGD has laid the infrastructure for the purpose of giving an impetus to the CGD business. Is my thinking right that it has also actually laid down the infrastructure for the purpose of other alternative fuel technological solutions also to be delivered through the pipeline which is currently being laid down by CGD? So two things. Is the infrastructure by CGD going to help the other alternative fuel solutions? Number two is, do you see anything that more needs to be done for a faster and deeper penetration of the CGD business?
I'll start my discussion, or rather my small view on CGD, is that the business of CGD actually started from around 1 decade back, and the growth which was there was not that much. If I talk about 3 to 4 years back, if I talk about the actual thing started, we had a big push from the government with the current MOPNG to have more CGD, more CNG stations all around, and then we had more push on PNG connections. If I talk about presently, we have around 2,000 CNG stations in India. With the numbers are exponentially increasing in last 3 to 4 years. So the entire credit goes to the government push, to MOPNG, to motivate the companies, rather to all oil marketing companies, even to the private companies like Adani, Torrent, to come up and actually to set up this infrastructure. The glory of the story is that by July 2019, CGD had around 30 SCMD share, which was just second after fertilizer. So that way we are growing in a very big way, but due to the COVID situation, we have actually now got a setback, but we are picking back. But with the push which is coming up from the government, I very well understand that CGD is going to go in a big way even in the coming time. Government is actually trying to generate a lot of in-house solutions like biogas, what Dr. Tipse already told. They have a vision of coming up with around 5,000 biogas plants so that we can produce in-house natural gas and we can feed our city gas business. So the movement, or rather the push of the government is extraordinary for from last 6 to 7 years, I'll say. But a lot of changes or a lot of improvements still are required, because the basic problems which the CGD companies are facing are two important things. One is the technological growth in equipments, or rather in the transport field or the transport section. And second is to increase the infrastructure exponentially. If we talk about the technological growth, I'll say that we were using type 1 cylinders till 3 years back, and type 3 cylinders and type 4 cylinders they have recently introduced, and which are actually the game changers. Now, we basically this CGD was a city gas fuel, and in which we could only travel approximately 200 kilometers. With the introduction of type 3 and type 4 cylinders, we can now go to 600 kilometers. So now it is not only with this type 3 and type 4, it is not only a city fuel, it can be an intra-city fuel as well. If I talk about another, you can say a great thing which is coming up, which is LNG. Now this rangeability will increase to approximately 900 kilometers, and it's a big solution for the diesel, which Dr. Tipse already told. So with the coming time, if we keep on growing and we keep on improving like this, definitely the CGD sector is going to come up in a very big way. But the problems which we are still facing is that the statutory departments like PESO and like other departments which provide us these NOCs have to be actually moving ahead along with us. Because if I talk about, I do not want to say anything about anyone, but the point is that we have to understand all these technologies of LNG and type 4 buses, they are already proven in America, in Europe. So there should not be any hitch to adopt them here, but still for LNG transportation, still we have not got the permission. So we are fighting for that, or rather we are trying to pursue the PESO department that they should allow us for putting up these LNG stations. So in this way, a lot of persuasion is required from the statutory bodies so that we can come up with new alternative fuels. Now, after this LNG, EVs are again coming. They are more. They have very less issues of pollution and all those. But the point is that, as Dr. Tipse said, that we have infrastructure for CNG, and the same infrastructure can be used even for putting up LNG stations as well. So with the push of entire fleet of CGD and the team like ARAI, we can move ahead and convince government that we should come up with new technologies. Now, if we talk about development of infrastructure, we have very limited resources or companies who are actually investing in coming up with compressors, dispensers for these type 3 cascades. We still have to import them. And that actually adds up to the cost. As you very well know, there's a big difference of dollar price. So the cost of these equipments till the time they are not more made in India, they won't be that cheaper. And we have very limited options for that. So more entrepreneurs should come up with putting up LNG and CNG stations, or rather more equipments here in India, so that we can have more stations all over. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was insightful. Development in CGD business, still a lot more needs to be done. Eric needs to open up manufacturing facilities in India as of yesterday. Eric, you're already late. So let me go to Mr. Manglani. Mr. Manglani, there was a conscious reason of actually coming to you last. You are the largest private sector player. So, you know, we have here somebody from outside of India. We have, so as to say, an intellectual who's telling us as to what is happening in India and as far as regulation is concerned. And Mr. Batra, so as to say, kind of represents the government, if that's the right terminology. But you're a true blue-blooded private sector player, and you have got into CGD. And if you got into CGD, obviously there is something there in CGD. It's growing leaps and bounds. So what we wanted your thoughts was, why CGD, and where is CGD going to go and take the other technologies for deeper penetration into the Indian hinterland? So that was wanted your thoughts on these issues.
Thank you, Sanjay. Let me thank first Massey Frankfurt for giving this opportunity to Adani Gas, to come and share its thought. You are absolutely right. Adani Gas is considered as one of the largest private sector company. We are a listed company. We have been in the business for the last 15 years. But before I come to Adani Gas, let me just give you a broad perspective of CGD sector and more focus on a mobility part. in the India. You know, the fortunately, and as Eric said, and I saw even Mr. Thipse, both the gentlemen, they spoke a lot about CNG. You know, India has been fortunate that way that we have started CNG movement almost in 1992. It's been almost 30 years now that CNG has started its journey. It was, as Pavneet said, it was initially quite slow, as any new technology or a new initiative takes place. But, you know, in the 2018, the whole, I would say, India has been brought to a very completely different landscape. Till 2018, we had only 90 districts or 90 cities where city gas distribution was happening. And in 2018 and 19, with a government focus, 2 bidding rounds, which were launched by the regulator, has expanded CGD footprint from 90 cities to now 406 districts. And Adani Gas joint venture company has footprint in 71 districts. That's the reason we are being called as the largest city gas distribution company, that out of 406 districts, 71 districts are with our presence or our footprints are existing. 35 districts we are doing it alone as a standalone company, and 36 districts are being done with our partner Fortune 500 company, Indian Oil Corporation, as a JV company. You see, as Dr. Thipse said, there is a huge focus on alternative fuel right from almost now, I would say, last 2 decades. 3 decades back, we had a CNG. Almost 2 decades back, we had an auto LPG also taking place. In the places where CNG was not reaching, auto LPG was brought in as an alternate fuel. Southern part of India, you will see even significantly today, where CGD is not there, and now we are taking inroads. You will find auto LPG present in a large way. Almost all southern states. Today we have 2,200 CNG stations. In the next 5 to 7 years, we will reach to the 10,000 CNG stations. Government of India has they had set a target of 5,000 bio CNG stations in the country. You must have heard Prime Minister even in this time Independence Day, Red Fort, when he was giving an independence speech, he did again lay down the vision on climate change, and he used the CNG for a cleaner transportation fuel. You continuously must have heard him even in the last 2-3 independence speech. Every time he has been giving focus on a CNG as an alternate fuel. Even during COVID period, there was an event in Madhya Pradesh state for dedication of a largest renewable project. But largely he spoke about CNG or a piped gas. So I'm saying when a government is so focused, the vision has been laid down very clearly that from a 6.2% share in the energy basket, Prime Minister has committed in the Paris Convention that it will be taken to 30% eventually, but her immediate target till 2030 is 15%. And city gas distribution is going to play a major role in that vision of a government. All the CGD company today, earlier we used to have very few CGD players, but now we have almost 30 CGD players, entities who are spreading CGD in the country. CNG used to be a local fuel. It means if you are converting a vehicle in a town, you are generally limiting your mobility within the town. But over the period, it became one town to another town. But now with this 2018-19 reform, you can see that today mobility range has increased significantly, even though the technology has not brought a higher range. Of course, Eric said, and Pavneet also said, and we are also seeing type 3, type 4 cascades have come. But even though, let us say, assume that technology continues to be the erstwhile technology, even then, because of the CNG stations now being available on a large number of corridors. Now you can travel from Mumbai to Delhi largely to the CNG. You can travel Mumbai to Jaipur to the CNG. You can travel south to north in the CNG. So there have been now so many corridors have been built in there could be some smaller gap in some places, but these corridors are helping that why there is a queue on CNG. When Mr. Dr. Thipse said there is a queue on a CNG vehicles and why OEMs are actually focusing on CNG, because they are actually seeing on the ground on a regular basis, month on month basis, significant number of stations are getting added because government and regulator are both focusing in all CGD industry are also working. You must know, Sanjay, and all panelists and all participants, that now it is not the earlier times when you used to decide your own discretion how many CNG stations you will set up. Now, as a part of a license condition, you are committing that how many stations I will set up in that area, and then ramp up also has been given. So you are actually bound to develop that infrastructure. Otherwise, you will be penalized. There is a significant penalty on a yearly basis. So government actually has assured a guaranteed development of a CGD infrastructure. And because OEMs are seeing that happening, they are actually coming out very regularly, and Mr. Dr. Thipse must be seeing in ARAI continuously. They are regularly coming out with the newer and newer models, providing much efficient solutions to the customer. And I am actually very happy that while there is so much of a talk of many more alternate fuel, and we'll be very happy to be part of that journey as well. But today for next 5 to 7 years, we still see CNG playing a major role in the country. And we are also seeing the way consumers are embracing. You asked, Sanjay, a very valid question from Dr. Thipse, that if oil prices goes down to a particular level low, what will happen to alternate fuel? I tell you, alternate fuel will still survive and in fact thrive. Alternate fuel will still thrive. One reason you yourself in the answer that alternate fuels are considered the more pollutant fuel as compared to the cleaner fuel of natural gas or LNG or EV or LPG or a bio. So that is one part that all of us, we would like to see a cleaner environment. So we will definitely adopt that. The only constraints was coming that mobility range was limited, and now that impediment is going away. Now you are seeing that you can fill the CNG like a petrol everywhere, like a petrol and diesel. You keep going, traveling, and you don't have to bother in your mind that CNG will not be available. Now CNG will be available, and very important, each CGD company is actually putting a wide, and very nicely markers across the highways and all the state roads that CNG is available in how many kilometers away from here. So that ease of identification also is happening. Earlier, you used to try to locate CNG station by asking 10 people, where is the CNG station available? And that tension used to go on mind that I will not get a CNG. But today, all that convenience is coming to the doorstep. And, second part is even today's fuel prices, which is a $45 Brent. Almost all CGD companies are providing 40 to 50% saving to the consumer so that he can get a better payback on the kit conversion. Even if it goes down, at the end of the day, we know our fiscal policy. If oil prices are going down, somehow we see prices are being maintained with some fiscal deterrent being brought in, because these fuels are considered as a fuel which are increasing our pollution. So government is actually also thrusting more, incentivizing more on alternate fuels usage. We also hear a lot about EV as an alternate fuel. And people keep asking me what is going to happen to CNG when EV is coming. And I keep telling in almost all webinars that yes, EV is coming. We will ourselves embrace the EV. We are not going to be the company which will be just watching what is happening on the EV. But today we see the next 5 to 7 years, CNG is going to be the major player in the alternate fuel, along with EV coming in the next 3 to 5 years started coming in, and then it will start settling down, and then it takes some more better share. Just to give us in a snapshot, in the last whole year, while so much of a discussion of an EV has taken place, there was a sale of only 3,400 vehicles in India on the EV. Only 3,400 vehicles. So India has today, 34 million four-wheelers, 34 million four-wheeler vehicles. And CNG is how much? CNG is only 3.4 million. So only 10% vehicles are running on CNG. There is a long way to go to convert large number of an old vehicles, even if EV comes in the new vehicles. So our sense is that CNG will play a very good role. CGD stations are not being built in only alone for CNG. It is like today we co-locate our CNG on a main fuel stations, MS and HSD. Tomorrow it could change. Alternate fuels will come and co-locate with the CNG station. Some we will do ourselves, some could be done by the other partners coming with us. Let's say EV, we could do ourselves, we could do through partners. We will set up an LNG station along with the CNG station, because we have an advantage of already a station available, so you don't have to spend money on the land. So you could co-locate LNG so that you can cater to the long haul vehicles like buses and trucks. So point I'm making is that CGD business is a special purpose vehicle which is going to achieve government vision from 6.2% to 15% of a share of a natural gas and energy basket. Is very important vehicle. Government is rightly focusing on CGD. Government is rightly incentivizing alternate fuels. Our view at Adani Gas is that alternate fuels shall coexist. It will not diminish one after another. CNG shall continue to play a good role. EV will come and coexist, and CNG will continue to play the role. LNG will come in for a different segment of vehicles like trucks and buses, which again CGD companies are well placed because they have their own CNG station. And in some of the CNG station, alternate fuels, even the fossil fuels can come in and co-locate if that is a requirement of that location. You will also be pleased to know that Adani Gas has already, it has that after the partnership of a Total, it is a joint venture of a Total and Adani Group. So along with the partnership of a Total, there is another company which we have formed, Total Adani Fuel Marketing, TFM. And that will also be setting up the fuel retailing stations along with Adani Gas. And there will be the alternate fuel solutions will be working on EV as well as the bio CNG stations, which will be part of an Adani Gas. So we are completely focused. We are going to be we will be working with the pace of a time. We would like to remain largest private sector company, not only in terms of the numbers, but in terms of even the customer delight and customer service. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manglani. It was a 10,000 square feet or 10,000 feet above sea level view, and even diving down below the sea level. So you've covered a wide spectrum in such a short time. Thank you very much. I think the takeaways that are there from Mr. Manglani are 2-3 things. Number one, CNG is the fuel for India today and for some time to come. There will be some other fuels which will come along the way, but they still have to go to a stage where they reach the tipping point. That's number one. Number two, regulations play a very, very important role in giving a push in a particular direction. Without appropriate push from a regulatory perspective, it becomes difficult for the mass consumers, and it's regulatory through fiscal and other legislations, to actually incentivize the consumers to actually adapt or adopt to a particular kind of technology. And obviously the government has certainly helped in this area, otherwise we would not have been where we are. So since technology or rather since regulation plays such an important role, let me come to Dr. Tipsey and get his views in terms of what are the areas where regulation can play a far more important role in the penetration of the alternative fuels, having recognized the fact, as Mr. Manglani said, that CNG seems to be the fuel of the immediate future, and as and when things develop, then we will see the other alternative fuels as they become more acceptable and cost effective.
Yeah.
So Dr. Tipsey, over to you.
Yeah. So regulations as far as the alternate fuels are concerned, I will bunch it into 3 parts. One is the vehicle related regulations. Second is the storage and the dispensing related regulations. And the third part is in terms of the fuel quality, fuel specs, and fuel itself. Okay. So the first part is vehicle regulations, where ARI plays a major role. So in this, we have the Central Motor Vehicle Rules. It is the primary certification document based on which all certification is done. So all the fuels which I mentioned, including CNG, LNG, bio-CNG, hydrogen, hydrogen CNG, ethanol, methanol, biodiesel, everything is notified in the Central Motor Vehicle Rules. So basically we have notifications and rules in effect for certification of vehicles running with that. So as far as the rules for the certification of vehicles, they are already in place. Second thing is certification of components of the fuel system itself. So that normally is done in India as per the ISO or EC regulations. These are two basic streams of international regulations, and both are followed in India. Traditionally, we follow the EC regulation, and if EC is not available, we follow the ISO. So in this way, the component certification is done. And the last part is in terms of the cylinder. So on-board cylinder again comes in terms of the explosives department, SO, which is the regulatory agency for approving the cylinders on board. So this is as far as the vehicle is concerned. Now the second part is storage and dispensing. Now the storage related regulations, I'm talking about the offline storage. So the storage which is in terms of cascade for CNG or in terms of any bullet for liquid fuels. So these kind of regulations are under the gas cylinder rules and static, mobile and pressure vessel rules. Both these are governed by the explosives department. Those rules are also framed for almost all of the fuels, barring a few new fuels which have to be added into that mix. But more or less the rules for those are also fixed. Dispensers are also approved under the scheme. There are different OISD standards for dispenser approval which are already in place. Now the last part is the fuel quality and other specifications. Now that BIS has fuel specifications for all the fuel, and normally all the fuel companies have to follow these specifications when they sell the fuel in India. So those BIS related specifications are also available. Some cases they are not available, so they are being developed, and majority of the cases BIS specifications are already available. So this is the 3-layer structure of certification and 3-layer structure of rules and regulation. And I can say one thing, that the government is very much pro or promoting all the alternative fuels, because the seriousness is evident from the fact that rules and regulations are in place for all technologies. Even though the technology does not exist in India, the rule is already made. I'll give an example. I mentioned the flex fuel vehicle, E85. As per law, E85 is allowed in India. Or even methanol vehicle. We don't have any methanol vehicle at now, but the rules are already in place. So that is why certification wise, there are no hurdles, and these kind of rules are already in place. So regulation will push the drive towards alternative.
Thank you very much giving a perspective from the Indian regulatory point of view. Now let's go back to the international sphere again, and Eric, back to you. Do you have any example? I mean, obviously you've seen, you have experience from across the world in terms of alternative fuels are concerned, and you are a most important peg, so as to say, as far as alternative fuels are concerned, because if there are no cylinders, the alternative fuel is of no use. So from what I understand, that Colombia is a very good example of a regulatory environment which has given a lot of push. Maybe my understanding is right or wrong, but I just wanted to leave it to you, whether Colombia is the right example, and what has Colombia done, and what can India learn from Colombia or any other jurisdiction from that perspective?
Sure. No, well, Colombia is a great example for sure. United States is more mature in its regulatory activity and what it's incentivizing from an alt fuel perspective. And I want to come back and talk about Mr. Mangali in regards to consumer behavior too, that's driving a lot of what's going on. But from a government perspective, Colombia is a great example of a government that has absolutely embraced the fact that they want to get away from diesel and petrol fossil fuels. It's a beautiful country, very much like India. You fly over, it's very green, very lush, and they have a lot of these valleys that collect smog, collect pollution. And they've taken a very aggressive stance in the fact that they want to move to alt fuel, and they have a phased approach where they want to get natural gas in immediately. They want to incentivize that aggressively whilst EV and hydrogen technologies are deployed and developed. And what they've done from a regulatory standpoint is they've lowered duties and tariffs on incoming product, and increased or kept the same tariffs on diesel, on petrol. So for example, commercial trucks that would come out of the United States or would come out of Europe, if they're diesel, they retain a very high duty. However, if they're compressed natural gas or alt fuel, the duty is either eliminated or virtually eliminated, allowing for that technology not to have that upfront penalty from a capital expenditure standpoint, and allow the local fleet to employ the technology almost immediately and have a positive ROI. The second thing they've done is, from a fuel price standpoint, is making sure that there's a large gap between the diesel and gas versus the alternate fuels such as compressed natural gas and biogas as well, while they deploy their biogas strategy. From an Indian perspective, it's so exciting to hear the number of filling stations that are going in. It's probably the most, I would say, for any economy that I've seen anywhere globally, the intent at least that is there. But those regulatory actions in Colombia have really driven a lot of behavior on our part to be down there and support that, because they need the range. They have a lot of mountains, so they need the ability to contain enough energy on the vehicle that they can run their routes on a daily basis. If you would allow me, Sanjay, I'd like to make another point in regards to the compressed diesel price that has really gone down. In North America, if you look at the price of diesel fuel, it's at roughly a 5-year low. There may be some valleys in there that were lower than that, but if you look at the spread between compressed natural gas and diesel, it's quite small right now. This year, we will do more in the truck space, heavy-duty truck space, because consumer behavior is insisting that corporations have sustainable plans. For example, UPS, as an example, has a very public policy that 25% of their vehicle purchases, regardless of fuel price, will be alternate fuel vehicles. And the fuel, of course, for them that they're employing in mass is natural gas, compressed natural gas, and liquid natural gas as well, while they're employing electric technology and other technologies as well. So consumer behavior is really driving a lot around the world. And coming out of COVID-19, where you look at these satellite images of Paris, of Milan, of LA, where the air is clean, and people are walking outside and they look up and said, I didn't know those mountains were there. I don't want to go back to the way it was. We have an excellent opportunity to make change in the world. It's sustained and it's visible, and we can see that. So I'm very excited, and I think, you know, as the speakers have said and Dr. Tipsey has said, we have a very bright future to do the right thing coming out of this in 2021.
Well, Eric, you know, in India, we do everything in large numbers, as is evident from a large population, but that supports the economy in a different way, that nothing is done in small numbers. Anyway, as the number of participants that are there, which is 265 on a COVID afternoon, we could go on for, I think, another hour or two, but unfortunately, we don't have the time. So I will have to request Payal to come back and play the video. Although, as I said, would have loved to continue. So Payal, can you jump in?
Yeah, yeah, Sanjay, just give me a minute. We are doing it.
Okay, so I think apologies for that. As I said, sometimes technology does tend to give you a short stick, but nonetheless, we'll come back. We've got a few questions. Let me go to Mr. Manglani. Is he still there? I think he's dropped off. Not a problem. So one of the questions, interesting one, is CNG growth in the passenger. Sorry, Mr. Manglani, you're back. There was a question for you, sir.
Yes, Sanjay. Yes.
Why is the SATAT policy? Why the SATAT policy is being led by oil marketing companies and not CGDs and GAIL?
You see, the SATAT policy, which is called as SATAT, it is the policy which has been designed to promote bio-CNG station or a biogas project. It was initiated by government and supported by oil marketing company, but it is being done also by CGD companies. In fact, IGL is here. IGL has in fact floated the LOI on SATAT, and they have appointed the LOI holder. Today in India, there are 600 LOI holders under the SATAT scheme. The SATAT scheme is where a person, an entrepreneur who would like to develop a bio-CNG station or a bio-CNG plant, the government has guaranteed a purchase price of 46 rupees per kg, which is a very incentivized scheme, so that the entrepreneur gets a good return and he has a guaranteed assurance that his product will be purchased. Now, while this is being floated by oil marketing companies, and in 1 or 2 cases IGL has done it, all the LOI holders which are there, they are being given, circulated to all CGD companies so that we all can take the benefit of that SATAT program. So there is a SATAT, there is a biogas committee which has been considered by Government of India, where Adani Gas also is a part of that committee. And we are actually recommending further more recommendation how to promote SATAT program. So to say that CGD's companies are not part of it, that is not correct. Actually, CGD companies are very much an integral part of a SATAT program.
Thank you very much. Eric, let me go to you, and then probably we can throw it to the panel members to answer these questions. Although we did discuss about this, that is the conflict between the alternative fuels. There's a specific question that has come up. What would be the impact of of electric vehicles on CNG vehicles? Can they coexist? I think it's already been answered, but you may just want to answer it very in a very short sentence.
Sure, we think it's very complementary. A fleet could have a very long haul application where CNG is the perfect application for it, or high payloads, but then also have the last mile or more medium duty type applications where 100 kilometers per day, or even up to, in the United States, we have applications that can go 250 miles in a day. Shorter range applications, EV makes absolutely perfect sense. So that we feel that they're very complementary to each other. And to think that 34 million vehicles in India could all be either one fuel or the other. If they were all EV, we wouldn't be talking right now because the lights wouldn't be on. They'd be drawing so much power to charge them. So we see them as very complementary.
Thank you.
One other thing, if Sanjay, if I can add, actually.
Yes, sir, certainly.
One thing which I missed is that, there is a huge focus on developing alternate fuel through several government policies. Now, let me give you, some snapshot of a new fuel retailing policy which government has recently launched. That policy suggests that, one, they have liberalized the complete fuel retailing policy from originally investment-based eligibility now to net worth based eligibility. So anybody who has 250 crore, is roughly $30-35 million only. Anybody has $30-35 million, you can start fuel retailing business in the country. You can set up your fuel retailing station. The more important from alternate fuel point of view, the important aspect is that government has prescribed that within 3 years, every fuel retailing station, which is today dispensing fossil fuel, MS or HSD, will also have to set up an alternate fuel, which means CNG or EV or LPG or LNG or bio-CNG. So just see the one policy, what kind of a significant change it will bring in the next 3-4 years, that every retail outlet when you go, you will get assurance that there is alternate fuel available. So that is a kind of a push which is happening in India on alternate fuel solutions.
Actually, I think you are reading the questions which the audience wants to raise. That was exactly the question that was there, that, why aren't people using CNG? And you've given the answer that the government is actually coming out with regulations and policies which will not only incentivize, but force people to have dispensing stations, or people to have dispensing stations for alternative fuels, and therefore driving deeper the penetration of alternative fuels. So you answered one more question. Let me see if there are any more. Now, one which as well, it says any incentive scheme, if anybody is aware of, which is likely to be formulated by the Government of India, or is the Government of India likely to formulate any scheme for manufacture of vehicles which use alternative fuels? So basically any incentive which the government is looking for incentivizing alternative fuels by transporters.
See, there are, if I may answer, there are incentive on every alternate fuel if you see. Now let us see on the CNG. The fuel price itself, which is 40% or 50% cheaper than alternate fuel, is a major incentive. Major incentive for a user, that if he is doing 40 to 50 kilometers in a day, his payback period is in 1 year, and thereafter he enjoys a cheaper fuel actually. So that's a major incentive. Second, almost all CGD companies are driving conversion of a CNG kit at much cheaper rate than otherwise it is available. So we are incentivizing even the kit's cost so that people find it relatively cheaper. So there are either being supported, either government is giving direct incentive or companies are giving indirect incentive to push and promote alternate fuel. On EV, I think almost daily basis we are reading something or else in the news that government is bringing out, state by state government or central governments are bringing out several incentives either on vehicle purchase or on a battery change or a battery swapping, battery charging, almost in all aspects of a value chain of an EV, government is bringing out the incentive. So I would say that on almost every alternate fuel, there is direct or indirect incentives are available, and that's the intent of a government and the CGD companies so that people convert on alternate fuel.
Thank you, Mr. Manglani. One last question is to Dr. Thipse. As a logistic company, what is the time process for getting LNG retrofit vehicle type approved?
Yeah, actually, typically retrofit, this conversion and then the certification process takes 3 months, because we already done the certification of LNG vehicles. I cannot discuss the cost here in the public forum, but retrofitment and conversion is possible, and certification is also very much possible. Roughly 3 months is possible.
Okay. Well, these are all the questions that we've had, and we've almost run out of time. I want to thank all the panel members for their insightful comments, and it was indeed a pleasure to moderate the session. May I give it back to Payal to conclude the session.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Sanjay. I must say it was indeed a wonderful discussion and a very insightful session. And also I'm pleased to announce that we have come up with the new dates of NGV India Summit 2020, which will be held on 26-27 November at Hyatt Regency, Delhi. So block your dates and stay tuned for further developments. And with this, I would like to thank all the panelists once again and also the lovely audience. Thank you so much for joining me.